Cole stood on his cabin porch and watched the night sky. The stars were bright over Montana, far from the city lights and far from the world he had left behind. He liked it that way. 3 wars had taught him that people were complicated. The forest was simple. The silence was peaceful. He was 53 years old. His hair had turned gray at the temples, and his hands sometimes shook when the memories came back too strong. But his eyes were still sharp, and his body was still tough from years of chopping wood and hiking mountain trails. He had been a combat medic once. He had saved lives in places where death was as common as breathing. Now he just wanted to be left alone. The streak of fire across the sky changed everything. It came from the east, burning orange and white against the darkness. At first thought it was a meteor, but meteors did not curve. Meteors did not slow down. This thing was falling, yes, but it was also trying not to fall. It was fighting gravity with everything it had. It lost the fight somewhere beyond the tree line, maybe 2 miles from his cabin. The impact shook the ground beneath his feet. A flash of light turned night into day for a single heartbeat. Then silence returned, broken only by the distant sound of trees cracking and falling. Stood very still for a long moment. His mind told him to stay where he was. His mind told him that whatever had fallen from the sky was not his problem. His mind was very good at telling him things that his heart ignored. He went inside, grabbed his medical bag and a flashlight, and started walking toward the crash. The forest was dark and thick, but knew these woods like he knew his own heartbeat. He moved quickly and quietly, pushing through branches and climbing over fallen logs. The smell of burning reached him first. Then the light, a strange blue glow that flickered through the trees like cold fire. The crash site was a wound in the earth. Trees had been knocked down in a wide circle, their trunks snapped like dry sticks. In the center lay something that was definitely not a meteor. The ship was beautiful, even broken. Its hull was made of something that looked like crystal and metal mixed together. It caught the moonlight and threw it back in rainbow colors. But the beauty was ruined by the damage. A long gash ran along one side, and smoke poured from cracks in the strange material. Approached slowly. He had seen enough death to know when something was dying, and this ship was dying. But ships did not matter to him. Lives did. The sound reached him as he got closer. It was a voice, high and filled with pain, not a human voice. The sounds were wrong, the rhythm was different, but pain was a language that needed no translation. He found the opening in the ship's hull and climbed inside. The interior was dark except for the blue glow of lights that were failing one by one. The air smelled strange, like flowers and copper mixed together. Moved carefully, following the sound of that voice until he found them. There were 2 of them. The larger one was clearly the mother. She was tall, maybe 7 feet, with skin that looked like polished black stone. Lines of blue light ran under her skin like glowing veins, but the light was weak and flickering. She had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on her face, and those eyes were fixed on with an expression that he recognized instantly. It was the look of a mother who was watching her child die and could do nothing to stop it. The child was small, perhaps the size of a 3-year-old human. She had the same dark skin as her mother, the same glowing lines beneath the surface. But where the mother's light was weak, the child's light was chaotic. It flickered and jumped and faded in patterns that looked wrong, even to someone who had never seen this species before. Knelt beside them. The mother made a sound, something between a growl and a plea. She did not know if he was friend or enemy. She only knew that she could not protect her child, and a stranger had appeared in her darkest moment. Held up his hands, showing he meant no harm. Then he pointed at the child and made a questioning gesture. The mother seemed to understand. She pointed at the child's midsection and made a motion with her hands. Something was wrong inside. Something was bleeding. Internal hemorrhage. Had seen it 100 times in human soldiers. The signs were different in this alien body, but the result would be the same. Without help, the child would bleed out from the inside. He opened his medical bag and looked at what he had. Human supplies for human bodies. Nothing that was designed for whatever species this was. But the mother's eyes were begging him, and the child's breathing was getting weaker, and Cole had never been able to walk away from someone who needed him. He thought about blood types and biology and all the reasons why what he was thinking was insane. Human blood was built for humans. It carried oxygen using iron, worked at human temperatures, fought human diseases. Putting it into an alien body should do nothing at best and kill the child faster at worst. But the child was dying anyway. Without intervention, she had minutes, maybe less. Rolled up his sleeve. The mother watched him with all four eyes, not understanding. He pulled out a needle and tubing from his kit. He pointed at his arm, then at the child, then made a flowing motion with his hand. The mother's eyes went wide. She understood now. She shook her head, not in refusal but in disbelief. What he was suggesting was impossible. It was primitive. It was insane. Met her gaze and held it. He had no words she could understand, so he tried to say everything with his eyes. Trust me. Let me try. I would rather fail trying than succeed at doing nothing. Something passed between them in that moment. The mother looked at her dying child, then back at. Slowly, she nodded. Found a vein in his arm with practiced ease. He had done this before, in field hospitals where proper equipment was a dream and desperation was the only tool available. The needle went in clean. He connected the tubing, found a place on the child's arm where the glowing lines ran close to the surface, and made his best guess. The first drops of human blood entered an alien body. The mother held her breath, held his. The child lay still, her light fatting, her small chest barely moving. Then something changed. The chaotic flickering of the child's bioluminescence began to slow. The wild pattern started to find rhythm. The light grew stronger just a little, but enough to notice. Felt hope for the first time since he had seen the crash. He adjusted the flow, giving more of himself, watching the child's vital signs with eyes that had learned to read death in a dozen different forms. It was working. Against all logic, against everything he knew about biology and medicine, it was working. He kept giving until the world started to spin, until his own vision began to darken at the edges. The mother's hand closed around his arm, gentle but firm, stopping him. He had given enough. He had given almost too much. Slumped back against the wall of the dying ship. His blood was inside a child from the stars now, keeping her alive. He did not know what would happen next. He did not know if she would survive the night. But he had done what he always did. He had given everything he had for someone who needed it. The mother looked at him with something new in her four strange eyes. She did not have words he could understand, but she spoke anyway, her voice soft and full of emotion. Did not know what she said, but he understood what she meant. Thank you. The night passed slowly in the broken ship, drifted in and out of consciousness, his body trying to recover from the blood he had given. The mother never slept. She sat between her child and the strange human, watching them both with those four luminous eyes. When dawn came through the cracks in the hull, woke to find the child breathing steadily. Her bioluminescence had stabilized into a soft, rhythmic pulse. The wild flickering was gone. She was not healthy yet, but she was no longer dying. The mother made a sound when she saw open his eyes. It was something like a sigh and something like a song. She touched her chest, then pointed at him, then at the child. Then she spoke a word that he would hear many times in the days to come. She said, touching her chest again. Understood, a name. He touched his own chest. She repeated it carefully, her mouth not quite built for human sounds. Mar. Then she pointed at the sleeping child. Nodded and smiled weakly. Names were good. Names meant they were people, not just aliens, people he could help. The next challenge was getting them out of the ship. The vessel was dying, its systems failing one by one, and did not want to be inside when something important stopped working. He was still weak from blood loss, but he managed to stand, understood what he wanted. She lifted with a gentleness that spoke of a mother's deep love, and together they climbed out of the wreck. The walk back to his cabin took 3 times longer than it should have. Had to stop often to rest, and moved carefully to avoid jarring her injured child. The morning sun found them halfway there, and by noon they had finally reached his home. It was a simple cabin, built with his own hands over the course of 2 years. One main room with a fireplace, a small kitchen, a bedroom, and a bathroom with running water from a well. Nothing fancy, but it was warm and safe and hidden from the world. Looked around with curiosity and something that might have been confusion. Perhaps she was wondering how a species that lived in such primitive structures had managed to save her daughter when her own advanced technology had failed. Did not have an answer for that question. He just knew that sometimes the simple things worked when nothing else did. He gave them his bedroom, needed rest, real rest in a proper bed, sat beside her daughter and refused to leave. Understood that too. He had seen that same fierce protectiveness in human mothers during the wars. It was universal, it seemed. Love did not care about species. The days that followed were strange and wonderful. Learned to communicate with through gestures, drawings, and patience. She was intelligent, far more than him probably, and she picked up English words faster than he would have thought possible. Within a week, she could speak in simple sentences. Within 2 weeks, she was nearly fluent. She told him about herself in pieces. She had been the wife of a diplomat, a man of importance in something called the Dominion. Her husband had opposed certain policies of the ruling council. He had spoken out against corruption and cruelty. For this crime, he had been killed, and had been marked for death as well. They had fled in a small transport ship, hoping to reach the territory of a friendly house that might give them shelter. But Dominion hunters had found them. There had been a chase, a battle, damage to their ship. They had crashed on the nearest habitable world, a primitive planet called Earth by its inhabitants. Listened to her story with a heavy heart. He knew about running. He knew about being hunted by forces too big to fight. He had done his share of both in his life. Recovered slowly but steadily. The human blood in her system did something that called impossible. It bonded with her own biology, filling the gaps left by her injuries, helping her body heal in ways that should not have worked. Was no scientist. He could not explain it. He just knew that the child who had been dying was now sitting up in bed and looking at him with curious silver eyes. She was shy at first, hiding behind her mother whenever came near. But children are children, regardless of species, and curiosity eventually won over fear. One afternoon, found her standing at the window, watching a squirrel climb a tree outside. He came to stand beside her and she did not run away. "What is?" she asked, pointing at the squirrel. Her English was limited, learned from listening to her mother and talk. Squirrel said, "It lives in the trees, it eats nuts." Watched the small creature with fascination. On her world, guessed there were no squirrels. Maybe there were no trees like these either. Everything here was new and strange and wonderful to her young eyes. That evening, asked to sit with her by the fire. Was asleep in the bedroom, and the cabin was quiet except for the crackle of burning wood. Bioluminescence glowed softly in the dim light, making her look like something from a dream. "I must tell you something," she said. Her voice was serious in a way that made pay attention. "What is it?" She was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. "What you did for the blood. In my culture, this is not a small thing." Shrugged, she needed help. "I had something to give, that is all." Shook her head slowly. "No, it is not all. Among my people, the sharing of blood is the most sacred bond. It is more than marriage, more than family by birth. When you gave your blood to, you became connected to her in a way that cannot be broken." Felt something cold settle in his stomach. "What do you mean?" "By our oldest laws, you are now her father. Not in the way humans understand the word. Deeper than that. Your blood runs in her veins. Part of you lives inside her. She is yours and you are hers forever. The fire crackled. Outside, an owl called in the darkness, sat very still trying to understand what was telling him. I did not know, he said finally. I just wanted to save her. I know. Eyes were soft, glowing like distant stars. That is why it means so much. You did not seek this bond. You did not want power or connection or reward. You simply gave because a child was dying and you could not watch her die. She paused. This is rare, among my people and yours both, I think. Thought about his life, the wars he had fought, the soldiers he had saved, the ones he had lost. He had never had children of his own. He had never found someone to share his life with. He had always been too broken, too haunted, too tired. And now, according to laws written on a world he had never seen, he was a father. What happens now? He asked. Reached across and took his hand. Her skin was cool and smooth like polished stone, but her grip was warm with emotion. Now you are family, and family protects each other. Her 4 eyes met his 2. The Dominion will come. They will not stop hunting us. When they find us, they will try to kill all 3 of us. Then we will be ready, said. The words came out before he could think about them. But once they were spoken, he knew they were true. He had lost too many people in his life. He would not lose these 2 without a fight. Smiled. It was a strange expression on her alien face, but somehow beautiful. You are a good man, Cole. I do not know why the universe brought us to your world, but I am grateful that it did. In the bedroom, slept peacefully, human blood flowing through alien veins, connecting her to a man she barely knew. Outside, the stars shone down on a cabin in the woods where 3 souls from 2 worlds had become something neither expected. A family. 3 weeks turned into 3 months. Summer faded into autumn, and the forests around cabin exploded with color. Red and gold leaves covered the ground like a carpet made by artists. Had never seen anything like it. On her world, explained, plants did not change with seasons. They simply lived or died, nothing in between. The child grew stronger every day. She ran through the woods now, chasing squirrels she could never catch and collecting leaves of every color. Her bioluminescence had settled into healthy patterns, glowing bright when she was happy and soft when she was calm. The human blood in her system had done more than save her life. It had changed her in small ways that studied with wonder. Healed faster than a normal child. Small cuts closed within hours. Bruises faded overnight. And she had developed a resistance to temperature changes that her mother lacked. The cool autumn air that made shiver barely affected her daughter at all. Human blood is remarkable, said one evening, watching play in the fallen leaves outside. Your species is young and primitive by galactic standards. You have no natural weapons, no protective shells, no special senses. And yet you survive. You adapt. You refuse to die even when the universe gives you every reason to. Stood beside her on the porch, a cup of coffee warming his hands. We are stubborn, he agreed. My grandmother used to say that humans are too stupid to know when to quit. Made a sound that had learned was laughter. I do not think it is stupidity. I think it is something else. Something my people lost long ago when we became civilized. She turned to look at him with her 4 luminous eyes. We improved ourselves with technology. We removed the parts of our nature that seemed weak or primitive, but perhaps we removed too much. Perhaps the things that seemed like weaknesses were actually strengths. Thought about that for a while. He had never considered his humanity as something special. It was just what he was. But watching, seeing how his blood had helped her become something new and strong, he wondered if was right. The days settled into a routine. Taught about Earth, about the plants and animals and the way the seasons worked. He showed her how to fish in the stream and how to identify which berries were safe to eat. She absorbed everything with the endless curiosity of childhood, asking questions that sometimes had no answers. Why does the sun go away at night? Because the earth turns and we face away from it. Why does the earth turn? Because that is how it was made. Who made it? Had no answer for that one. He just smiled and ruffled her hair, which had started to grow in small dark curls mixed with strange silver strands. Spent her days trying to repair a communication device from the crashed ship. If she could get a message to her allies, she said, they might be able to send help. But the damage was severe, and she was working with primitive human tools. Progress was slow. She also taught about her people. The Dominion was an old empire, powerful and proud. It had ruled 100 star systems for thousands of years, but like all empires, it had grown corrupt. The current council cared more about keeping power than serving the people. Anyone who spoke against them was silenced. Her husband, Oran, had been a voice of opposition. He had tried to change things from within, using words and diplomacy instead of violence. The council had killed him for it, making his death look like an accident, but knew the truth. She had fled with before they could finish eliminating their family. Are there others like your husband? Asked. Others who want change? Yes, many. Eyes glowed with something fierce. There are noble houses that oppose the council in secret. They are afraid to act openly, but they are waiting for the right moment. If we can reach them, if we can show them that there is hope, they might rise up. And if they do not, then we keep running, we hide, we survive. She looked at who was trying to teach a confused squirrel to take food from her hand. That is all we can do. As autumn deepened, began to prepare for winter. He chopped wood until his arms ached and his hands grew calloused. He hunted deer and preserved the meat. He checked every inch of the cabin for gaps that might let in the cold, watched his preparations with interest, and then began to help. She was stronger than she looked, able to carry logs that struggled with. You work very hard, she observed one day. Winter is coming, replied. If we are not ready, we will not survive. Nodded slowly. My people have machines that control temperature. We never think about seasons or weather. Everything is regulated, controlled, made comfortable. She looked at the pile of firewood that had spent days cutting. I think perhaps we have forgotten how to struggle, how to work for survival. Struggling makes you strong, said. Comfort makes you soft. Yes, his voice was thoughtful. I think you understand something that many advanced species have forgotten. The struggle is not just about survival. It is about becoming who you are meant to be. The first snow came in early November. Had never seen snow before. She stood outside with her face turned up to the sky, watching the white flakes fall with wonder in her silver eyes. When she caught one on her tongue and tasted it, she laughed with pure delight. Watched her from the porch, feeling something warm bloom in his chest. He had not expected this. He had not expected to feel like a father, to care about this alien child as if she were his own. But he did. The blood bond that had described was more than just words. He felt it in his heart, a connection that went deeper than logic or reason. That night finally got her communication device working. It was a small thing, barely larger than his palm, but it could send a message across the vast distances between stars. She composed a signal, encrypted it with codes that only her allies would recognize, and sent it into the darkness. Now we wait, she said. How long? Days, weeks, I do not know. She looked tired, her bioluminescence dimmer than usual. The message must travel far, and my allies must decide if it is safe to respond. Put a hand on her shoulder, then we wait together. 2 weeks later, on a cold night when the snow lay thick on the ground and the stars shone bright and hard in the black sky, received a reply. Her allies were coming. They had a ship hidden in a system not far from Earth. They could reach the planet in 3 days. Felt relief and something else, something that might have been fear. The waiting was almost over, but what came next would be dangerous. Getting and off Earth would mean exposing themselves to the Dominion's hunters. It would mean risking everything. That night, as they sat by the fire and watched sleep on a blanket nearby, spoke quietly. If the hunters come before our allies arrive, you should run. Hide, let them take us. No, his voice was firm. They do not know about you. They do not know a human helped us. You could survive. I said no. He turned to face her, his eyes hard. Is my daughter now? You said so yourself, and I do not abandon family. Stared at him for a long moment. Then something in her expression softened, and she reached out to touch his face with her cool fingers. You are a strange species, she whispered. So young, so primitive, and yet so full of fire. She let her hand fall. I am glad we crashed on your world, Cole. Of all the places in the galaxy we could have fallen, we fell here, to you. Outside, the snow continued to fall, blanketing the world in white silence. Somewhere among the stars, hunters were searching. Allies were traveling. And in a small cabin in the mountains, 3 souls waited for whatever came next. Together, the Dominion warship arrived on the 3rd morning, one day before the Allies were supposed to reach Earth. Saw it first, a dark shape descending through the gray winter clouds like a blade cutting through silk. It was not as large as he had feared, maybe the size of a commercial airplane, but it moved with a precision that no human aircraft could match. He ran to the cabin, his boots crunching through the frozen snow, was already at the window, her 4 eyes wide with fear. Stood beside her mother, not understanding what was happening but sensing the danger in the air. They found us, said. Her voice was steady but could see the terror beneath the calm. The hunters are here. How long until your allies arrive? 1 day, maybe less. She turned to look at him and he saw something break in her expression. We cannot hide. Their sensors will find us anywhere on this planet. We cannot fight. They are trained soldiers with advanced weapons. Then we run, said. We get as far from here as we can and hope your friends get here in time. Shook her head. Their ship is faster than anything we can use. They will catch us in the open, away from any shelter. At least here we have walls. Looked around his cabin, the home he had built with his own hands. Wooden walls, glass windows, a structure designed to keep out winter cold, not energy weapons. Against a Dominion hunter team, it might as well be made of paper. But she was right. Running meant dying in the snow. Staying meant maybe dying here, and maybe was better than certainly. How many soldiers will they send? He asked. A standard hunter team is 15, commander and 14 soldiers. His voice was hollow. They are trained to eliminate targets efficiently. No witnesses, no survivors. 15 against 1 human and 1 diplomat. The odds were impossible, but had faced impossible odds before. He had survived situations that should have killed him a dozen times over. The universe had not managed to end him yet. He went to his bedroom and opened the trunk at the foot of his bed. Inside were the things he had brought from his old life, things he had hoped never to use again. His service pistol, cleaned and maintained out of habit. His grandfather's hunting rifle, old but reliable. A shotgun he had bought years ago for protection against bears. Ammunition for all 3. Primitive weapons had called human technology. She was right, but primitive did not mean useless. Take and go to the ridge behind the cabin, said, loading the rifle with practiced hands. There is a cave there, hidden behind some rocks. I found it last spring. Wait for me there. What are you going to do? Buy you time. He looked up and met her eyes. Your allies will be here in less than a day. You just need to survive until then. Understood what he was saying. He could see it in the way her bioluminescence flickered with emotion. They will kill you. Maybe, smiled, and it was not a pleasant smile. It was the smile of a man who had made peace with death long ago. But I have been killing things that thought they were better than me my whole life. These hunters do not know what they are walking into. He moved toward the door but caught his arm. Her grip was strong, almost painful, and her 4 eyes burned with an intensity he had never seen before. You would die for us, she said. It was not a question. I would die for my family. He reached out and touched her face the way she had touched his that night by the fire. Now go, keep safe. That is all that matters. looked at him for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She pressed her forehead against his, a gesture he remembered from when he had said goodbye to, the sign of deepest affection. "If you die today, Cole," she whispered, "I will make them pay. I will burn their entire empire to ash. I swear it on my daughter's blood." Then she was gone, gathering in her arms and running out the back door toward the ridge. Watched them disappear into the trees before turning to face the front window. The hunter ship had landed in the clearing where the road ended, maybe half a mile away. He could see figures emerging from it, tall and dark and moving with military precision. They were heading toward the cabin. Checked his weapons one last time. Then he settled into position by the window and waited. The first hunter came into rifle range 15 minutes later. He was scouting ahead of the main group, moving from tree to tree with confidence. He probably expected no resistance. After all, what could a primitive human do against technology? Showed him. The rifle cracked and the scout fell. The other hunters scattered, seeking cover, trying to locate the threat. Was already moving, shifting to a new position, keeping low. He had learned long ago that staying still meant dying. A sniper who did not move was a sniper who got killed. The return fire came seconds later. Energy bolts that sizzled through the air and blew chunks out of his cabin walls. The hunters were shooting blind, trying to suppress rather than kill. They still did not know exactly where he was. Good. Fired again, taking down a second hunter who had exposed himself for too long. Then he moved again, sliding through the cabin like a ghost. He knew every inch of this building. He knew which floorboards creaked and which windows gave the best angle of fire. This was his ground, his territory, and he would make them pay for every step. The battle lasted 6 hours. 6 hours of shooting and moving and hiding. 6 hours of energy weapons tearing his home apart while he picked off hunters one by one with patience and precision. 6 hours of impossible resistance from a single human who refused to die. He killed 11 of them. 11 trained soldiers fell to his primitive weapons and his stubborn will to survive. The cabin burned around him, set aflame by weapons fire, and still he fought. He took wounds, energy burns that scorched his flesh and bullets that found their mark when the hunters started using projectile weapons in frustration, and still he fought. It was the 12th hunter that finally brought him down. A shot to the leg that shattered bone and dropped him in the snow. Tried to crawl, tried to keep fighting, but his body had finally reached its limit. The blood loss from his wounds, the exhaustion of 6 hours of combat, and the searing pain in his leg combined to steal the last of his strength. He lay in the snow, his blood melting the white into red, and watched the remaining hunters approach. There were 4 of them left, 4 out of 15. He had cost them 11 soldiers, a price that would have seemed impossible to pay. The commander stood over him, looking down with those 4 alien eyes. There was something in his expression that might have been respect, or maybe just disbelief. "One human," the commander said in accented English. He had probably learned the language to interrogate survivors. "One primitive human killed 11 of my soldiers." Smiled through the pain. His grandfather had once told him that a man could be proud of how he died, even if he could not be proud of how he lived. Thought he could be proud of this. "Not bad for a primitive," he managed to say. The commander raised his weapon. "Where is the woman, the child?" Said nothing. "Tell me, and I will make your death quick." Laughed. It hurt, but he laughed anyway. "I am not telling you anything. And when finds out what you did here, she is going to make you wish you had never been born." The commander's eyes narrowed. He did not understand. How could he? He did not know what knew. He did not know about the blood bond or the fire that burned in his heart. He did not know that he had just made an enemy more dangerous than any soldier. "Kill him," the commander said to his soldiers. "Then find the others." Closed his eyes. He thought about's laugh. He thought about's hand in his. He thought about the family he had found at the end of his life, the connection that had given his lonely existence meaning. It was a good way to die. The shot never came. Instead, there was a sound like thunder and lightning combined, and the world exploded into chaos. Opened his eyes to see energy beams raining down from the sky, cutting through the remaining hunters like they were made of paper. A ship descended through the clouds, sleek and silver, and on its hull blazed a symbol that did not recognize. His allies had arrived early. The last thing saw before unconsciousness claimed him was running toward him through the smoke and fire. Her eyes were wild, her bioluminescence blazing with an intensity that turned night into day. She was screaming something, but he could not hear the words. He smiled and let the darkness take him. He had bought them time. He had kept his family safe. Everything else was in their hands now. Woke in a room made of light. That was how it seemed at first. The walls glowed with a soft blue radiance, and the air hummed with energy he could feel in his bones. He was lying on something soft, and when he tried to move, he found that his body responded without pain. No burning wounds, no shattered leg, just a strange tingling sensation where the worst injuries had been. "Do not move too quickly," his voice came from somewhere nearby. "Your body is still healing." Turned his head and found her sitting beside him. She looked different. Still the same obsidian skin and 4 luminous eyes, but there was something new in her expression. Something hard and fierce that had not been there before. "Where are we?" His voice came out rough, like he had not used it in a long time. "On the ship of House, my husband's allies," reached out and took his hand. Her touch was warm now, not cool like it had been on Earth. "We are far from your world, far from the Dominion's reach." Processed this information slowly. He was on a spaceship. He was somewhere among the stars. The cabin in Montana, the life he had built there, was gone forever. He asked, smiled. It was the first real smile he had seen on her face since the hunters arrived. "She is safe. She has been asking about you every hour since we left Earth. She wanted to stay by your side, but I made her sleep." Relief flooded through like warm water. Was safe. That was all that mattered. He tried to sit up, and this time helped him. The room around him came into better focus. It was small but comfortable, clearly designed as a medical space. Machines he did not recognize surrounded the bed, their lights blinking in patterns that probably meant something to someone who understood them. "How long have I been asleep?" 8 days. His grip on his hand tightened. "You almost died. Your injuries were severe. Our doctors did not know if they could save you. Human biology is different from ours, and they had to learn as they worked. But they saved me." "They did." Something flickered in his eyes. Pain, maybe, or memory. "I made it very clear that failure was not an option." Looked at her carefully. There was a story there, a story he was not sure he wanted to hear. "What happened after I fell?" Was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was flat, without emotion. "I watched you fight from the ridge. I watched you kill 11 hunters with weapons my people would call toys. I watched you fall in the snow and bleed for us." She paused. "And then I watched the commander stand over you, ready to end your life." "The ship arrived," said. "I remember that." Yes, the ship arrived, but it was not fast enough. Eyes met his, and he saw something in them that made his blood run cold. "The commander gave the order to kill you. I heard it through the communicator I had taken from a fallen hunter, and something inside me broke. Waited. I left in the cave. I told her to stay hidden no matter what, and then I went down the ridge." Bioluminescence flickered with colors had never seen before. "My people are not warriors anymore. We gave up violence generations ago. We are diplomats and scientists and artists. But long ago, before we became civilized, we were predators. The instincts are still there, buried deep. I found them that day." She released his hand and stood, moving to look out the window of the medical room. Stars drifted past, countless points of light against endless darkness. The commander was about to fire when I reached him. He never saw me coming. I killed him with my bare hands. Her voice was still flat, but there was a tremor beneath the surface. Then I killed the soldier beside him, and the one beside that one. The ship's weapons finished the last hunter, but by then I had already torn 3 of them apart. Stared at her back. This gentle being, this diplomat's wife who had been so afraid of the hunters, had killed 3 soldiers to protect him. She had found violence inside herself that she probably did not know existed, and she had used it without hesitation. He said softly. She turned to face him. There were no tears in her eyes, did not cry, but he could see the weight of what she had done pressing down on her. "I am not sorry," she said. "I thought I would be. I thought that killing would change me, make me into something terrible. But when I saw you lying in the snow, dying for us, I understood something." She walked back to the bed and knelt beside it so their eyes were level. "You gave blood for my child. You fought and killed and nearly died for strangers who were not even your species. You did this without hesitation, without asking for anything in return." "It was the right thing to do," said simply. "Yes, and that is what makes humans remarkable." Reached out and touched his face, tracing the lines of age and hardship with gentle fingers. "You do not have the strongest bodies. You do not have the best technology. You do not have special powers or abilities, but you have something that we have forgotten. You have hearts that refuse to accept the impossible. You have spirits that will not break even when everything else does." She leaned forward and pressed her forehead to his. "I killed for you, Cole. I will kill again if I must, because you are my daughter's father and you are—" She hesitated, searching for the right word. "You are precious, to her, to me, to a galaxy that does not know yet how much it needs your kind." Closed his eyes and breathed in her scent, alien and familiar at the same time. "What happens now?" "Now we go to the coalition, the noble houses that oppose the Dominion." Pulled back slightly, and there was fire in her eyes. "What happened on Earth has already spread through the networks. A single human, armed with primitive weapons, killed 11 Dominion hunters. This story is being told in every corner of the Empire, and people are listening." "What are they saying?" Smiled, and it was fierce and proud. "They are saying that maybe the Dominion is not as powerful as it claims. They are saying that if one human can do so much damage, imagine what a real resistance could do. They are asking questions that the Council does not want them to ask." The door to the medical room slid open, and a small figure burst through. Ran to the bed and threw herself at, wrapping her thin arms around his neck and holding on like she would never let go. "You woke up," she said into his shoulder. Her voice was thick with emotion. "Mother said you would, but it took so long and I was scared." Held her close, feeling her heartbeat against his chest. Human blood flowed through her veins, keeping her alive, making her stronger. His blood, his gift, his daughter. "I am here," he murmured into her hair. "I am not going anywhere." Stood and watched them embrace. Her expression was soft now, the fierce warrior gone, replaced by a mother looking at her family. After a moment, she moved closer and wrapped her arms around them both, creating a circle of warmth in the cold darkness of space. "The coalition leaders want to meet you," she said too. "They want to see the human who humbled the Dominion's hunters. They want to understand what makes your species so dangerous." "What will you tell them?" Thought about it for a moment. "I will tell them the truth, that humans are young and fragile and primitive by galactic standards, that you have no special gifts, no superior technology, no natural advantages." She smiled. "And I will tell them that none of that matters, because when a human decides to protect something they love, the universe itself cannot stop them." Held his daughter close and looked at the stars drifting past the window. Somewhere out there was Earth, the world he had called home. Somewhere out there was a galaxy full of wonders and dangers he could not imagine. And somewhere out there was a corrupt empire that would learn to fear the name of a species it had dismissed as primitive. He did not know what the future held. He did not know if the coalition would succeed in their rebellion. He did not know if he would ever see Earth again, but he knew one thing with absolute certainty. He had poured his blood for a dying child, and in doing so, he had gained something he never expected to find: a purpose, a family, a reason to keep fighting in a universe that seemed designed to break those who cared. Had sworn to keep him, to fight for him the way he had fought for her daughter, and knew she meant every word. She would tear the galaxy apart if she had to. She would burn empires and topple governments and remake the stars themselves. Because that was what family did for each other. Smiled and closed his eyes, feeling the warmth of his daughter in his arms and his partner at his side. The war was coming. The Dominion would not let this insult stand. There would be battles and blood and sacrifice ahead. But for now, in this moment, there was peace. There was love. There was home. And that was enough.